Welcome back to Weather on the Go, all your weather coverage. In today's video, our focus will be on a heat wave breakdown with cooler temperatures for the 4th of July holiday, followed by rounds of severe storms today through the middle of this upcoming week, and the long range forecast during the middle of July with extreme heat returning across the southern plains and big storms over the top of the heat across the Midwest, the northern plains, and the Ohio Valley. We'll get to those details later on in today's video. But going back to yesterday, it was rather eventful. We had a lot of damaging wind reports across portions of the Missouri Valley, around the Ozarks, all the way east-southeastward through the Tennessee Valley and the southeast. We had 228 wind reports, 24 hail reports, but thankfully we did keep the tornado report to 0 yesterday, but it was eventful. We had 252 total severe weather reports going back to your Saturday, July 1st. But as we go through today, we're going to start to see a breakdown of this upper level ridge that has been causing a lot of the stifling heat across the southern and southeastern United States. And you definitely see that with some of these bluer anomalies starting to shift more to the south and east. So we're going to squash this ridge down all the way to the Gulf of Mexico today. But we still have heat advisories from the Carolinas through Georgia here into northern Florida and then back across Dixie Alley here all the way into East Texas as we go throughout the afternoon, and then more heat headlines across the west coast as a new ridge of high pressure will begin to build as we go into this upcoming week. So looking at high temperatures today, it will be hot. There's no surprise here. We have upper 90s to low 100s for highs from East Texas all the way to the Carolinas and Virginia, but it's not going to be as hot as what we have been seeing lately. But look at the heat out here to the west. The Phoenix region up to 112 this afternoon, possibly up to over 120 degrees in Death Valley this afternoon, and then up to the Sacramento Valley in California. It will be stifling hot with up to 110 degree heat today. But looking more focused on the southeast, these are why we have the heat advisory headlines across this region, from the Carolinas back west through Georgia, North Florida, and then through Dixie Alley here through Mississippi, Alabama, and Louisiana. All these areas will be approaching 105, 106 degrees Fahrenheit this afternoon for your heat index. That will be causing some heat-related illnesses if you do not take the proper precautions. So just be sure to hydrate and stay indoors as much as you can to get cool from these high temperatures. But as we go into Monday, it will start to cool off a little bit more. We'll see more 80s becoming common across the southeastern United States. Still some 90s around, but not as extreme as we have been seeing the past several days. And even going into the 4th of July on Tuesday, yeah, the low to mid 90s will be around, but this is more typical heat for the southern United States for this time of year. So nothing too troubling as long as you hydrate and stay indoors. When you do feel hot out there, definitely take the proper precautions. But over top of the heat, as it breaks down, we have more severe weather, rounds of severe storms through the coming days. Today, another enhanced risk across Kentucky and northern Tennessee, with a widespread slight risk here across the Tennessee Valley, eastward here to the Delmarva region as well. We also have a small slight risk back into northeast New Mexico, the Texas and Oklahoma panhandle this afternoon. But the area of most focus for tornado potential today will be on central Kentucky, the Lexington region, Louisville, Frankfort, and getting as far south as the Bowling Green region into Kentucky this afternoon. It's only a 2% shading, so an isolated tornado or two will be possible. We're certainly not talking about strong tornadoes whatsoever. So going through this afternoon, we're watching the storms develop across the western Ohio Valley, down across southern Indiana, western Kentucky, and this will form more of a line of storms. A couple storms ahead of that could produce a couple tornadoes through the afternoon and evening. That'll race across the Ohio and Tennessee river valleys, bringing damaging winds in excess of 60 miles per hour, quarter-size hail or larger, and possibly a couple tornadoes through the nighttime tonight. And then as we go into Monday, this all shifts further to the east. So we include the Delmarva region here from Philadelphia, Baltimore, down through Washington, D.C., and as far south as South Carolina into the Columbia region on Monday for severe storms. And that does include the threat for a couple tornadoes across especially North Carolina, Eastern Virginia, up into the Washington, D.C. area as we go into Monday. But the main mode of severe weather will likely be damaging winds and large hail. Then our attention will focus Monday night towards the northern plains and upper Midwest as a cold front will be racing out of Canada here from Manitoba and Saskatchewan down into the Dakotas and northern Minnesota. And then that will be diving down into the lower Midwest and the western Ohio Valley by midweek on Wednesday, July 5th, providing the chance for some thunderstorms along and ahead of that front. So on Monday, we start to see more severe weather along and ahead of that cold front from portions of southeastern Montana, northern Wyoming, and getting eastward through the Dakotas and western Minnesota with a slight risk up into the Billings region, Rapid City, Aberdeen, and maybe just to the west of the Twin Cities region on Monday. That shifts a little bit further to the southeast on Tuesday with the cold front from the Duluth area down here through La Crosse, Minneapolis, St. Paul, getting into the Omaha region and down into toward Topeka, Kansas. And then on Wednesday, it shifts even further to the southeast, including the Green Bay region, Milwaukee, Chicago, all the way south and westward toward the Kansas City region. And even some severe storms that could be popping up Wednesday from Denver all the way down to the Amarillo, Texas area into the panhandle of Texas as well. So very eventful next several days for severe weather, and just walking you through some of the rainfall accumulations through the next few days. This is on Monday. Decent rains across the Dakotas and into northern Minnesota, and especially back into southeastern Montana with the heaviest of the rains, possibly over a half an inch to up to an inch of rain across those areas. Then the most significant of the rains with this front will come on the 4th of July from the Twin Cities region down through the Omaha area, Lincoln, Nebraska. Those areas could see in excess of an inch of rain going through that 4th of July holiday during the afternoon and evening. So if you have any firework displays up in this region, do be mindful to watch the radar. There could be some showers and storms around going through the 4th of July holiday itself. And then on Wednesday, this all shifts across portions of the western Great Lakes, the lower Midwest, and into the Ozarks region here into Missouri, back into the Central Plains, into Kansas and Oklahoma with some decent rains here. But by then, the cold front will be moving fast enough to where we won't be seeing some flooding rains, but still a half to an inch to 3/4 of an inch possible by that Wednesday time frame. Then as we go into Thursday, more severe storm potential here across eastern Wyoming, all the way south to the Amarillo area into the Texas Panhandle again on Thursday with more severe storms erupting here. Possibility for some damaging winds, large hail, and a few tornadoes by Thursday, July 6th. But the pattern starts to continue to shift a little bit as we get into the second week in July. We have below normal temperature signal up here from the northern plains down across the Ohio Valley, with that ridge of high pressure and heat wave trying to build across the Rio Grande Valley down here and getting into the southern Four Corners region as well. And we're also hanging on to the heat across the Pacific Northwest, across Washington State, Oregon, and Idaho through that July 11th time frame. But as we get toward the middle of July, getting toward the 15th, 16th time frame, we're going to start to shunt all this cooler weather further to the east into the mid-Atlantic with below normal temperatures, and that will open the door for the heat expanding all the way up into the central and possibly the northern plains by then, as we get toward the middle of July. And you do see that depicted here, the overall weather pattern. You see these orange anomalies across the southern United States. This will build out of Mexico and travel further to the north across the Red River here into Texas and Oklahoma, and eventually into Kansas, Colorado, and southern Missouri as we get into that second week there in July. And that only expands further north beyond the 15th of July as well. So looking at the surface-based CAPE trends, this is the convective available potential energy. This is what thunderstorms develop off of here. And you start to see that building mainly across the Great Plains from the Dakotas all the way south to Texas during that second second week in July. Also some elevated CAPE potentially across the Gulf Coast states and the Carolinas during this time. And that's where we likely will see rounds of convection, some thunderstorm activity from the front range of the Rockies southeast bound through the Missouri Valley, the Ozarks region, and into the southeast. Also some heavier rains across the I-95 corridor from New York City and up through Boston as well during that July 7th through the 15th time frame. But it gets a little bit more concerning. Once we get into the middle of July, we start to see more extreme CAPE values trying to trend further north, areas that haven't seen a lot of this time this year so far, across portions of Nebraska, Iowa, getting into Illinois and parts of Indiana, Ohio, and maybe even up here towards Wisconsin and Minnesota as well, toward that 15th, 16th, 17th time frame there of July. And you start to see a little bit of a signal for above average precipitation across the southern Great Lakes region and into at least the lower Midwest, with drier conditions taking over as that ridge and all that sinking air starts to billow up across the central and southern plains, providing us with lots of sunshine and dry conditions through that third week into July. So my severe weather forecast from July 7th through the 15th, it is possible we see severe weather events here, that places we've seen it all along the past several weeks, from northeastern Colorado, eastern Wyoming, and then east southeast over top of that ridge across the Ozarks, southern Illinois, getting into Tennessee here and Kentucky during that 7th through 15th time frame. Then I think it all just shifts further to the north and becomes a little bit more likely, as well as all of that instability. We have the corn sweat up in this region as well, providing us with higher dew points into the lower 80s perhaps toward the middle of July. So I think some MCSs or even derechos could become more likely across the northern plains, the upper Midwest, and the central Great Lakes region during that July 15th through the 23rd time frame. But going to the tropical weather update, over the Atlantic, the Caribbean, and the Gulf, no new tropical cyclones expected during the next 7 days. That is from the National Hurricane Center outlook there. And the reason for that is, looking at the satellite imagery, all of the tropical waves moving off of Africa are way too far south to even get into the Caribbean for the most part. They're actually traveling over northern South America and then over the Central Americas and into the eastern Pacific Ocean as of late. And there's no reason to believe that won't continue at least through the next few days, going through July 10th. I think all of this tropical activity coming off of Africa is just too far south to really get into the Caribbean or the Gulf. So I think this really just travels over northern South America, the Central Americas, and into the eastern Pacific, providing the eastern Pacific with more action with the tropics going forward toward the middle of July. So looking here at the eastern Pacific with the update here, we do have tropical depression Adrian across the eastern Pacific Ocean. This is rapidly weakening as it is encountering some very cool waters here just west of the Baja of California. But a new area of concern with at least a 30% probability from the National Hurricane Center just off the coast there of Mexico to the south. We are watching this area over the next 5 to 7 days for development of a new tropical entity across this region. So looking early this week on Monday, July 3rd, this is tomorrow, we see it pretty quiet across the eastern Pacific, in comparison to what we see here with Adrian. That is going to quickly weaken. And then high pressure dominating across most of Mexico. It will be hot in Mexico and the Baja of California. So prepare for the extreme heat down there. And then as we go through the week, we're going to start to see signs of one of these tropical waves pushing over portions of the Central Americas and into the open waters now of the eastern Pacific Ocean. And that will start to encourage more tropical development just off or near the coast of Mexico there by that Friday, Saturday timeframe on the 7th and 8th of July next weekend. And looking at the GFS model as well, it does support this. It is a little bit more biased toward a stronger system as the GFS tends to be, but even the Canadian model, the CMC, is also kind of trending more toward a sub 1,000 millibar low. So we'll have to see if maybe the GFS is onto something, but certainly 3 3 of the main operational models are showing this, and even the GEFS ensemble guidance is showing lowering of the pressures just to the west of the Mexico coast. So we will be able to watch out for this over the next couple of days and monitor it. But yeah, the water temperatures are warm across this region, especially near the coast of Mexico. But as it travels further west, it will run into some trouble with some cooler waters. Remember, hurricanes do not like cool waters. They fall apart very quickly, as Adrian has already and continues to be over the next couple of days. Well, if you're new to the channel and not yet subscribed, if you like detailed weather breakdowns in North America, including southern Canada, the United States, and the tropics, be sure to press the subscribe button down below. It is absolutely free to do, and I do appreciate all the support, all the new subscribers, all the old subscribers here returning to my videos every single day. It is also very important to press the like button, the thumbs up button down below the video. It helps to disperse all of this weather information out to as many people as possible, so I really do appreciate you pressing the like button as well. If you want to follow me on Twitter for additional weather forecast updates in addition to this video, press the description down below the video and follow me on Twitter at HWeather420. I do appreciate that, and I do update on that platform fairly frequently throughout the week as well. Well, thank you so much for joining me here on this Sunday morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you're watching from, whatever time you're watching. I do appreciate all the support. Remember to subscribe to the channel if you're new. Press that like button, the thumbs up button down below. It definitely helps out more than you know. And if you want to leave any comments, questions, and concerns, I'll be open to answer any questions you guys do have about the upcoming weather pattern later on today as well. Otherwise, thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope everybody has a great rest of your weekend out there.